All right. Just getting set up here for the first live training of Simple Podcast Press. How to get the most out of it. I'm excited. I am just getting all set up here. Got 10 more minutes. I'm going to make sure things are running smooth. All right. I see a few people signing up already. I know it's about a 30-second delay. If you can hear me, leave me a quick message in the chat box. All right, just getting the last few more minutes. I see a couple people on already. See Joey, my main man Joey's here in the house, and Andrew, talked to him yesterday. That was a great conversation we had. I'm just gonna try to compensate for the 30-second delay with the Google Hangout. I'll try my best, but if you see something go out of sync, or you see me talking too fast, or you got a question, leave them in the chat box. There should be a chat box on the page that you're at right now, and I have another page here. I can see what you guys are typing, and what I'll do is I'll try to answer them during the session, but I'll try to save it for the end. We'll do a Q&A. I can stick around for another hour if we need to, so I'm cool with that. I just want to make sure that everyone gets the most out of this training, get all your questions answered, and hopefully we'll have a good time. I'm looking forward to it. I'm just going to shut off my phone so we've got no distractions. Okay. This is all cool. Just setting up here. Get my test site going. I see Chuck, Leslie, Tony, John, Georgette. I'm glad you guys made a time on Tuesday to drop by and see me. If you guys, you got a replay after this, you're going to email with the replay, so don't worry about kind of scrambling, taking any notes or anything. I'll try to cover, the different workflows, the different ways so you can get the most out of the plugin, but you can always go back and watch it later. So don't worry about that. And I'm of course around by email, Facebook, Twitter, whatever works for you guys. You can always message me later, ask me a question. I'm here for you. Whatever you guys need, just let me know. And and for those who are going to Podcast Movement in 10 days, I think it is, I make sure we hook up. I want to make sure we say hi, make sure we connect. I had a great time last year, but I know this year is going to be even better. Okay. Just bear with me for a minute. Just want to get my Make sure I got all my test sites up and running so I can show you guys this thing in action. All right, can you guys hear me? I don't know, I'm hoping the chat box is working on your page. If somebody can just drop me a note, say hi, give me a thumbs up, or I don't know how you put thumbs up in text, but you know what I mean. Send me a message in the chat box. I want to make sure it's working so I can get all your questions, because right now I don't see anybody leaving me any messages. I see people attending. I just don't see anybody leaving any messages. So Joey, Kim, Andrew, somebody, talk to me. Let me know. Let me know what you guys thinking. All right, I see Charlotte logged in, Kieran. All right, this is going to be good. I'm going to give another few more minutes for everyone to join in. I'm still not seeing any questions pop up. I'm wondering if we're having technical difficulties with the chat. Let's see, how can we do this? I'm just going to log in quickly and just make sure that on a different computer that everything's working well. Just 2 seconds here. Yeah, it looks like there's an issue with the chat box. That is going to be interesting. This is not good for a Q&A session. So let's see, what's the backup here? I think what we'll do, what can we do here? I tested it this morning and there were no issues with the chatting. Let me try something here real quick before we get started. I'm gonna just reload this page and see if this comes to life here. I apologize for this. I'm using a new platform. Hey, there we go. I see Charlotte. She posted something. That's awesome. There we go. Now it's working. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. My video clear? Am I frozen? Am I good on the video side? All right. I feel better. Awesome. Good. Awesome, guys. All right. So why don't we get started? It's just 1 minute after 3. Just want to thank you guys for taking the time on Tuesday to come and hang out with me and spend some time with Simple Podcast Press. A lot of you have used it. You know your way around, but I kind of want to show you a little more advanced stuff, a little more, explain a little bit what the different settings do, and get some ideas sparked in you so you guys can really take advantage of this plugin. And I'm gonna first start off with like workflows. So I'm gonna show you 3 different workflows to get you started. 3 different options to use Simple Podcast Press, and depending on what feed you're generating, depending on if you're using PowerPress or not, that kind of thing. So I'm going to start off with workflows. Then I'm going to check my notes here. I'm going to get into some of the powerful features. I'm going to talk about customizations, iTunes reviews, talking about URL shorteners, tweet, all the cool stuff inside. So that's going to happen there right after we talk about workflows. Then I'm going to give you talk about a few tools that are outside of Simple Podcast Press that I use, and if you want to check out, will help you if you run into problems. Some tools, some resources, and then the fun part. I'm going to open it up to you guys to do a Q&A session. You guys take over in the chat box. I'll answer any questions. Talk about anything you guys like about the plugin. If you're stuck somewhere, you name it. So let's get to it. I'm going to turn on my screen share, and I'm going to share my screen. Then let's just minimize this, get to the right screen. All right, so here we are. I'm going to open up a chat box on my other computer, so in case you guys have any questions along the way, I'll try to answer them. But like I said, I'll try to address questions as we go along, but more important, I'll go back and reread them all and during the Q&A session at the end. So let's get this chat box open. Actually, I'm not sure if I can do that, but what I'll do is I'll just pop in and out of the questions. It's my first time using this new platform. Yeah, you guys can see the back end of Webinar Ninja, who Omar Zenholm and Nicole's new product. Is first time using it. So far, it looks good. So you guys can get a sneak peek at that back end. All right, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So Simple Podcast Press, what is it? What is it all about? I'm sure, obviously, you guys know it's a podcast player with, the main intention being it's a podcast player that's going to help you grow your audience. Grow your audience by getting more subscriptions, making it easier for listeners to subscribe, and also grow your audience in terms of growing your email list. And it's a very, very important element of your business and your podcast. The more emails you have, the better connection you have, the more you can have communication to get them listening more, get them interested in your products or services. Whatever it is, you get a stronger, deeper conversation with them. So that's why one of the big focus of the Simple Podcast Press is the email opt-in. And the last thing is the automation. It's a podcast player designed to grow your audience, but it's also on autopilot. So I'm a big fan of automating as much as you can, especially podcasting, because there are a lot of steps, as you guys know, to getting a podcast up and live, recording, editing, etc., publishing. So I wanted to automate some of these steps. And the automation happens from getting the podcast onto your WordPress site. Okay, so let's see. Let's get started. I'm just going to check my notes over here. So I'm going to talk about the 3 different workflows. So I'm just going to talk about them briefly and then demo them and show you some tips and tricks. First is the fully automated way. So what this means is you have a podcast feed. It's not on your site. Your podcast feed is on a third party like Libsyn, Spreaker, you name it, or whatever third party service that generates a podcast feed. It's fully supported by Simple Podcast Press. So you enter a feed, you tell Simple Podcast Press your feed, and it's going to go back for every single episode, create a page on your site, a post on your site, and it would automatically take the title, description, and the actual player and insert it depending on your settings where you want it to appear. So that's the workflow. It's fully automated. This happens every hour. So every time you publish an episode, within the hour, you will have a post, whether it's draft or published, sitting on your WordPress site. And of course, there's an option to activate a manual import. So if you can't wait that hour or you need it right away, you can get those posts generated right away. So that's the first workflow. Third-party feed, it will create posts automatically on your site. Second workflow is you create an episode on your site, but you just want to add the player. Like you like the player, you want to use the player, you want to add it to existing posts, for example. So there's a way to manually insert the player. Now this is good is if let's say you're just starting to use Simple Podcast Press and you've had a previous episodes, you may be using the embedded Libsyn player or SoundCloud player. You'd have to kind of go back and manually edit those older posts and put the Simple Podcast Press player. There's a way to do that pretty easily. So that's kind of the second way of doing it. It's manually adding the player. And then the third way is specifically designed for PowerPress users. Now, PowerPress users that's a big chunk of podcasters use PowerPress. PowerPress is a plugin that generates your feed. So we have to make sure that the workflow is very seamless with PowerPress. So I'm going to talk about literally just by installing Simple Podcast Press, you do not have to change anything to do with your PowerPress workflow. So your workflow is exactly the same. We don't alter the feed. We don't generate the feed. It was designed to work with PowerPress. So all it does is you follow exactly the same steps as you do now with PowerPress. You tell it where the MP3 is. You click verify. I'll show that a little bit later. But the whole thing is it's exactly the same process, and the player, the Simple Podcast Press player is automatically inserted in place of the PowerPress player. Now the cool thing is it does that for new posts, but it also does that for all your hundreds of episodes that you've published before. So instantly you can update all your whole library of episodes. If you're a PowerPress user, automatically drop in the Simple Podcast Press player. It happens instantly. You don't have to do anything. It just happens. You can go back to the PowerPress player if you like, no problem. But by default, it automatically replaces your players. So those are the three workflows: full automation, manual insertion of player, and the PowerPress workflow, which I'm going to show briefly, but basically it does not change at all. All right, I'm going to stop sharing for a quick second and going to just quickly have a quick look at the questions, see if I can answer anything really quickly. All right, John's asking if I just bought the player. I bought it a week ago and I have not uploaded any episodes yet. Do I need PowerPress? That's a great question. I get that question often. It depends on your setup. If there's two ways of going, there's two schools of thought. There's people who like to control and generate their feed from within their WordPress site. And there's a school of thought that says, you know what, I'm going to trust third party, somebody like Libsyn, to host my audios and generate my feed for me. So I'm not going to say one's better than the other. It's all about how comfortable you are and how much you want to rely on third party versus for them to do the work and provide the support. But I'm a big fan of PowerPress. I like the PowerPress plugin. It's free. So if you do decide to use the plugin and you need to generate a feed somewhere. So if you don't have a third party like Libsyn or SoundCloud, Spreaker, if you don't want those guys to generate the feed for you, then you need the PowerPress plugin. Absolutely. All right. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. So the automation part is really, to be honest with you guys, is where we got started. That was kind of the beginning. The idea came from the automation. Buzzsprout. Yeah, Troy's saying Buzzsprout worked for him on his first post. Awesome. Yeah. It works with any feed. Buzzsprout, Podbean, any podcast feed service that generates it, it's fully compatible with it. Khalif is asking, does this work well with a visual composer? I'd like to replace the play button now with your player. I'm trying to see if I understand the question properly. You mean the default WordPress audio player? Like WordPress, if you just put in a URL of an MP3, WordPress would automatically add its own basic player to it. And if that's what you mean, then actually, yes, it will. We added an option to replace that player with the Simple Podcast Press player as well. I hope I answered your question there. Okay, very cool. So let's just jump back to the screen sharing. And let's just go through the workflows. All right. So I'm going to basically start from the top. I already have a feed connected to it, but I'm going to just reset the plugin and basically start from scratch. So I'm going to reset this plugin. And just going to give me a quick second here. Oops. Okay, so you install the plugin. I'm not going to demo this part, but you install the plugin just like you do with any other plugin, free or paid. You go under plugins, add new. I'll quickly show it for those who are just getting started or haven't installed it yet. You can go upload plugin, and you choose the file, and the file that was emailed to you. You just download that file to your computer, choose it, and click install now. And it's going to ask you if you want to activate. You say yes. So just like any other plugin, installation is pretty standard. Once you install and activate, you need to come here to the license section and activate your license. So again, this is a kind of one-time thing, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to demo that right now. But as soon as you activate your license, you come here to this window, and this is where you do your setup. So the first question it asks you, basically, it wants to know your iTunes URL or your podcast feed if you're not on iTunes yet. Now, I recommend iTunes URL because it will also pull in, the plugin will also pull in all your reviews. So all your reviews from worldwide will come into this plugin as well on your dashboard. I'm going to demo that and show you some cool ways you can play with that. So if you have an iTunes URL, I recommend you use it. What's an iTunes URL? Some people have asked me. It's basically this page here. So if you just Google your podcast, School of Podcasting, just copy that URL and drop it in here. And this step takes, depending how many episodes, I'm not sure, Dave's got a lot of episodes, so hopefully this doesn't take too long. It takes maybe 30 seconds to a minute, maybe a little bit longer, depending. So right now it's not doing anything but just kind of looking at that feed and just analyzing it and getting all the information it needs. So it's not creating any episodes yet. It's not doing anything yet. It's just kind of building its own internal database of information. Okay, so first sign that it's all good is that it found your artwork. So that's a good sign. So it means we're in. So these are the settings. Now, I'm not going to go through setting by setting by setting. I don't want to confuse you guys and intimidate you guys. But I want to talk about workflows, because that's really more important. Like, in the beginning, I talked about the 3 different workflows: the fully automated, the manually inserting the episode, manually inserting the player, or PowerPress users. So I'm going to talk in that context. So let's start first, the fully automated way. So fully automated, just quick reminder, you enter all your information on a third-party system, a third-party service like Libsyn, for example, Spreaker. I have a test Libsyn account, so I'm going to quickly show you kind of what you need to enter. So you enter all the information, title, description, you upload the audio there, and Simple Podcast Press will pull it all in. So that's where the automation comes in. And it's very smart. So it avoids duplication. So it's not going to import anything that it's already imported before. Now I'm going to say that again. It's not going to import anything the plugin imported before, but it doesn't quite know if you already have an existing post. So a lot of people find that if they have maybe 10 episodes already published through their own way with their own player, then they do an import, which you see here. It says import all. It's going to import everything, including the first 10 episodes they already have on their site. Now, and then it just sits in the draft folder by default, so nothing really to worry about there. But we added a feature so that you don't have to import everything. You can actually disable the import if you want to do things manually, but you can only import after a specific date. So this is pretty handy. So let's say you just install the plugin today, you already have 10 episodes in the past, and say, you know what? I don't want you to import those 10 episodes. I already have them. They're live. No need to import. No need to import them again. So you can go and set a date. Oh, it's today. Where are here? Whatever date you want. So going forward, it's only it's going to ignore everything before this date. So it's pretty handy. I'm not sure a lot of people know about this feature. It can come in handy if you're doing an import where you have episodes that you've already published. But once Simple Podcast Press knows that, it's not going to do duplicate. It's never going to import duplicates on its own. So it knows about its own settings. Anyway, great feature if you are adding this to an existing podcast. If you don't have any episodes and you're starting a brand new site, or you just want to start adding your episodes, then the default is all. You want to import everything from episode 1, everything in your feed from episode 1 until now. You'll make a new page on your site and automatically add the player. So since we're talking about these settings, so this section here is called the publish settings. So this is where you set up how you want it to publish, and where do you want it to publish, what author, etc. So I'll quickly go over this. By default, everything goes to a draft, and that's intentional. You don't want a lot of people don't want it to go live right away. You want the episode coming, you want to preview it, maybe you want to add a few images, maybe tweak some text, add more show notes, transcript, whatever you want to do. Then you can decide when to publish the actual publish the actual post on your site. So default is set to draft. If you want to auto-publish, you can do that. That's cool. You can have an email sent out to you every time a draft is created, because every hour the plugin's checking for a new episode. So when a new blog post is created by Simple Podcast Press, it can let you know. Say, hey, I just created a new draft. You might want to edit it and publish it. So that's an option as well. I talked about which ones to import. Default is all. This one, sometimes some people trip over it a little bit. This is the episode art. Now, by default, it's off because a lot of people don't add episode-specific art or artwork or image. They have their image for their podcast feed, but they don't have one for every individual episode. So by default, it's off. But there's a couple options here. You can have it set to import from your podcast feed. Now, depending on your provider, I'm going to show you Libsyn how to do it in Libsyn, because I figured that out. Actually, I was working with Joey. We figured that out. And so if your feed provider gives you the option to add an image, I know Libsyn does, then you can have it import automatically. And what this does, it gets set as the featured image on your blog post. Now, a featured image, depending on your theme, it may do different things. A lot of themes display the featured image as a thumbnail when you have a listing of your blog post. So depending on your theme, some themes take advantage of the featured image. So if you have Libsyn, and I'll show you how to set that up in a second, you can have the images get pulled in here for every unique image for every episode. And then there's another feature which is kind of a custom request from a few people. Libsyn gives you also a website, like a page. Like when you have a Libsyn subscription, you get a little mini website that comes with it. And a lot of people add an image to the website. And I had a few requests for people to import that image from that website. So my recommendation is if you're a Libsyn user, don't be tempted to click this one. I'm thinking I might be renaming that slightly to make it less tempting. So podcast feed is most likely the one that you want, and I'll show you how to set that up in just 2 seconds. WordPress categories. So to keep things organized, you can go under appearance. No, it's under posts, categories. Make a new category. Typically, you want to call it podcast or podcasts. And what this does is to kind of differentiate between blog posts or other content on your site, you can have these episodes that get created by Simple Podcast Press assigned to the podcast category within WordPress. And it'll show you all the list of different categories that you have, but you have to set it up here first. You have to add the category here within the post section of WordPress, then come back to this page and you'll see your category. And actually, this is a great feature because a lot of people have asked me, hey, how do I show a page, like add a menu item on my page that shows me only the episodes that are podcasts? I don't want to show my whole blog. I want a page on my menu called podcast and only lists all my podcast pages. So there's a way to do that using the menu item within WordPress. You tell it basically show me only entries that are within a category called podcast. So it's very convenient to organize your posts by category. Author is the author. If you have multiple authors, you can choose which author you want. And custom post type, real quick here, most people would use the default, basically a default post, but some themes or some plugins will add another type of content, maybe called podcasts or whatnot. I might cover that in another podcast episode in more detail, in another training in more detail. But if you're not sure, then stick with the default, which is the standard post. All right, so what do we do? First time around, I'm going to skip all these settings for now. I'll come back to them later. I'm going to go in here and just save my changes. And the first time you're doing this, you want to go ahead and import all the episodes. Actually, you know what? I'm going to set a date so that it doesn't take too long. Actually, you know what? That's okay. We'll import them all. So I'm going to say import new podcasts. It's actually pretty quick. Now, I knew this was going to happen. It's going to say no new podcasts imported, because just before I got on a demo, I was testing this feed, and it already imported all of the episodes for this podcast. So it knew that, and it said, you know what, no new podcasts are added. So it's smart enough to not duplicate itself and not import the posts. So where are these posts? So we go under posts, all posts, and they're sitting in drafts. And I was testing with a lot of different, I should have cleaned up my drafts before. So I got some of Daniel's. I was testing with Daniel's feed earlier on too. I'm pretty sure this one is one of Dave's, the one we just imported. So I'm going to edit just to show you what the blog post looks like. I'm pretty sure this is Dave's School of Podcasting. Yes, it is. Okay, so it took, I'm going to step right back and slow it down. So what it did, took the title from the feed. It took all the information, all the links, everything from Dave's Libsyn feed, and it made a blog post exactly as with all the information that he did on Libsyn. So the idea is you don't need to, you can do all the work once while you're creating your feed on Libsyn or Spreaker or whatever, and you don't have to go back and retype or copy and paste. And let's go ahead and preview this page. You notice it was a draft by default, so I'm going to go ahead and preview it. So I didn't show you these settings yet, but I'm going to show you in a second. But by default, I told it to put the player on top. So it put the player, the buttons I configured. I'm going to talk about those in a few minutes as well. And that's it. Like, Dave's ready to go. He can go ahead and publish this right now. And yeah, this player is linked up to the episode. So everything is set up automatically. Nothing that Dave had to do. After creating the feed in Libsyn with this workflow, it pulls everything in. So let me stop sharing for a quick second. I'm going to answer some questions. All right. Andrew's got a question about the URL shortener. Yep, I'm going to talk about that, Andrew, a little bit later as one of the tools, the Get Podcast Reviews tool. I'm going to revisit this question later. Yeah, oh yeah, 400 episodes. It took 20 seconds, Joey's saying. That's awesome. Troy says 63 episodes, super fast. Yeah, 67. Yeah, it's pretty fast. It's pretty fast. I'm impressed how fast. Of course, it depends on your server, your hosting, etc. But it's pretty fast, so it's cool. You don't have to sit there and wait for it. Okay, I know we're about 30-second lag here, but let's keep going. Sorry, let's go back to the screen sharing, and I want to show you a couple of things within the Libsyn to show you how to kind of take advantage of the featured image and stuff like that. So I'm going to share my screen and show you my Libsyn, my test Libsyn account. All right, here we are. Okay, so this is kind of the back end of Libsyn. This is one of my test Libsyn accounts. I'm just going to go to an existing episode, a previously published episode. Oops. Okay, so I'm just going to edit this one, for example. So this is what someone would do when they make a new episode. Right? It might look a little bit different when you're adding. Here I'm editing, but the idea is the same. Is you upload your audio file, you give it a title, you enter a description and a thumbnail picture, and you hit publish. So I think the process is very similar. So what similar with like Spreaker and whatnot. So the cool thing is Simple Podcast Press looks at all these different fields. So it takes a title, it makes it the title, obviously the title of your post. But here's where it gets cool. You got a couple things. The description here, you can enter just plain text, but you can insert images, you can make hyperlinks, bold. Everything you do in this box in Libsyn will be translated as HTML, like as the actual stylized version into your WordPress site. So you've noticed back on Dave's site here, he's got links, he's got bold, all these, you take the time to create it within Libsyn, make them actual links, highlight it, make it a link, etc. And that gets that gets basically mirrored, duplicated into your WordPress site, so you don't have to do it again. So that's really cool. So this is like with the automation workflow, I recommend putting as much information in here and like take the time to stylize it, format it. That way you don't have to go back in WordPress and spend a lot of time. You may tweak a few things here, maybe add an extra image, slight formatting maybe, but 90% of the work can be done here. Okay, now the thumbnail. Now this is what I talked about with that setting. I think Joey and I discovered this recently, kind of how to get this really working properly. And we discovered if you put the thumbnail here, I mean, obviously this applies only to Libsyn, and I'm not sure about Spreaker or SoundCloud if they have similar features, but you can go ahead and upload a new thumbnail, pick the picture. Now there's a little bit of a caveat here. You have to make sure it meets the minimum iTunes requirements of like 1400. You can read about it in this thumbnail, in this question mark here, but follow the steps here, upload the image, and when you publish, oh, sorry, one more thing I'll talk about in a second. If I switch back to here, back to the settings page. So if you have this set from podcast feed, it will pull in the thumbnail from here. So that's the thing. This thumbnail will add the image for this episode to the feed, and then Simple Podcast Press will pull that image and make it the featured image on your site. Okay, and the last thing I forgot to mention is some of these sites have tags and keywords. Now this is great because we actually pull in the tags and keywords from here if they exist. Like Libsyn will add them to the feed for you. And even though iTunes no longer really looks at them, but if you do enter them here, it's good for SEO purposes for Libsyn. If someone is looking up for your content, might get served up on Libsyn. But more importantly, all the keywords get pulled in and added to your blog post. So if I go edit this post, the keywords, maybe Dave wasn't using keywords. They would get added here automatically, which is kind of cool. So again, the more you do on Libsyn or your hosting service, feed service, the less you have to do manually. And the last thing worth mentioning is the dates. The dates are preserved. Now this was very important. The dates of the post that the Simple Podcast Press creates will be preserved. I know it says here that it's modified on this date, but when I publish it, the published date will correspond back to the published date of the episode. And that's really important, of course, because you want your blog post to match the published date, especially if you're importing episodes from last year. You don't want all the episodes to show the date of today, for example. So that's kind of good to know. Nothing for you to do. It's automatic. Just something you don't have to worry about is modifying that date, the WordPress published date. Okay. I'm going to pause real quick, just check for questions, and then move on to the next workflow. All right, so okay, Troy's asking, as you develop more for the plugin, will it be included? Maybe I missed that first part of the question. Say Troy. I use Buzzsprout. Oh, see, Buzzsprout, maybe I'm misunderstanding the question, but Buzzsprout is supported. The feed is supported. If you're thinking maybe the buttons, like a button to subscribe to Buzzsprout, we're looking to add more buttons to Buzzsprout, all the other services, the new subscribe on Android by the Blueberry folks. So we're constantly going to be adding more, especially now we're going to do a bit of research, find out all the buttons that people want and make them default buttons available to you. And I'm going to talk about the buttons in the next section here and show you kind of the custom buttons and stuff like that. Okay, so Tony's asking, if I have 200 existing shows and recently switched to PowerPress, do I need to manually update the older shows that are not part of PowerPress? If you have, so okay, I'm trying to understand the question. So if you have 200 existing shows and you switch over to PowerPress, do you, it depends, I guess, which player you have. You have, maybe, I'm not sure I understand the question. Do I need to manually update the older shows that are not part of PowerPress. It depends. If you already have the players, if you already have Simple Podcast Press, obviously if they're already there, they're not going to get removed, the posts. If you have a different player, then if it's not the native player that's part of WordPress and it's not the PowerPress player, and then you will need to go back and manually update. But it depends. Like if you can let me know which player you're using, I can also look at it. I can also look at maybe adding a custom switcher, for example. Like maybe we can detect the player you had before and replace it. So we're doing that with a few other players as well. So I have some using PowerPress and some using PowerPress. Sorry, I think I'm getting confused. So some with Simple Podcast Press, maybe you meant? Yeah, we can, if you can send me an email maybe after, we can, maybe we can hop on a call together and figure it out. But I'm going to keep going. Andrew's actually got a good question here. I think you already emailed me about this when I made a note of it. The buttons. I'm going to talk about the buttons now in a few minutes, but I meant no iTunes button. Oh, yeah. So Andrew's suggesting, hey, why aren't the buttons smart? For example, if you're an Android user, one of the buttons says subscribe on iTunes. Well, you can't really subscribe on iTunes if you're on Android. So that's a really great suggestion, a really smart suggestion. So we're looking into that, basically detect what platform you're on and hide some of the buttons potentially, or make them link to a different service. So yeah, definitely an awesome tip. I love that idea. I love smarts. I like smart logic. So yeah, definitely. I already have made a note of that one. I think you emailed me a few weeks back. All right, Tony. Yeah, so let's hook up maybe after this, by email and whatnot, and we'll hop on a call together. We'll get it sorted out for you. We'll find the easiest way to get it done. Okay, I'm gonna hop back to my demo, my screen share, and show you really quick. This part is very quick. Show you how to insert the player manually. So if you already have, so we talked about the full automation workflow. Now we're talking about manually going back and editing a post and adding the player to it, manual way. So I'm just going to open, let me see. I'm going to open any of these other posts. I'm going to open any of these posts here. This is actually one of Daniel's posts. And so this is something we're working on to make it a little nicer. But right now, there's an icon here called Insert Audio Player. Now this one, if you click on it, it's going to insert the special code, the SPP, what WordPress calls the short code. So this by itself won't work if you're replacing old posts. This button will work if you want to insert the player, let's say in the middle of the page, for a post that was created by Simple Podcast Press. So if Simple Podcast Press made the post and then you just drop this, somewhere in the middle here, then it knows audio file to play. It's smart enough. But if you're taking a post that you've created yourself, it doesn't know which audio file it should play. So the way to fix that is, it's a bit manual now, and we're looking at making it a little nicer. But you would type in I think it's in the manual, in the quick start guide as well. You type URL equals, and then you would grab the audio file. I'm not gonna waste time doing that, but you would just type in, libsyn.com, and you copy and paste from Libsyn myaudio.mp3, and then you close the quotation mark. So it looks like this. And we're gonna make it nicer, so when you click a button, you don't have to type code. But for now, to manually add a player to an audio file, you just have to say URL equals, quotation mark, and then paste the link to the MP3. Now this is pretty cool too, because now you can just add this audio player anywhere you want. It could be on a page. It could be, let's say, it doesn't have to be a podcast. You can use it as an audio player for anything. So it's open to that as well. And another kind of, not to say advanced feature, but another feature is you can customize this player. What I mean by that is, for this particular episode, let's say I don't want the opt-in box. I can say, I have to look this up. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I shouldn't be doing that in the demo, but I can look. It's in the quick start guide. I think I say opt-in equals off, and CTA buttons, call to action buttons equals off. So you can do things like this. It's documented in the manual. So I can say, for this episode, let's say I'm putting it on my thank you page or webinar thank you page, or I'm putting this on a contact form page, and I don't want the opt-in box and buttons. I just want an audio player. So you can do that. You can say opt-in equals off, buttons equals off. I'm just doing a guess here. It's been a while. Let's see if that worked. I'm curious now. Yeah, it worked. So it took off the buttons and it took off the opt-in box. So it's fully documented in the quick start guide. By the way, if the quick start guide is if you don't remember the link, right on top here, where did I put it? Yeah, right here. So whenever you're in the settings page, you want to access the quick start guide, the latest version is always here. It will link you to that. So it might come in handy if you're stuck somewhere, or you can always email our support team, support@simplepodcastpress.com. All right, so that's it. Put the player on. Normally you wouldn't have these. You can put the player anywhere you want. Now, the third workflow is the PowerPress workflow. So if you're in PowerPress, this for those who are not familiar with it, basically you're basically creating the feed on your WordPress site. So you type in all your show notes here. You'll make a brand new post, create your show notes here, and then you scroll to the bottom, and there's this place where you paste your, let's see what's in here. You would paste, similar to what we did above, you would paste the link to your audio file. So you would copy something like this, like a real audio file, and it's called podcast episode. You paste it here and you click verify. And this is not a feature of Simple Podcast Press. This is a feature of PowerPress. So you got to make sure you have the PowerPress plugin installed. You create the post. You tell it, okay, this is episode 1, and this is the audio that corresponds with the episode. You click verify, and it checks that it's a real MP3 link. It detects the file size and how long it is. And then you hit publish. And when you publish, it updates your podcast feed. And so normally with PowerPress, in the PowerPress settings, you can tell it, I want the audio player to always go on top, always go on the bottom, or you can add the PowerPress player anywhere. Like, I think the short code is PowerPress. You type in this short code, PowerPress, and that puts the PowerPress player. So with Simple Podcast Press, all it's doing is it respects your settings for PowerPress. So if you told PowerPress, hey, always put the player on top, Simple Podcast Press will look for that player, find that player, and instantly replace it with the Simple Podcast Press player. If you tell it to put it here in the middle of the post, same thing. It finds it in the middle. It replaces it with the Simple Podcast Press player. So that's the beauty. So if you're a PowerPress, you've been doing PowerPress for a while, nothing changes from your workflow. I always try to make sure that's clear. Nothing changes. And the advantage is all your previous episodes will automatically get updated with the new player, which is really cool. You don't have to go back and manually edit your few hundred episodes that you may have published. So it's designed to work with PowerPress. It respects the PowerPress settings, and it doesn't get in the way of PowerPress in a way that it doesn't interfere with the feed that gets submitted to iTunes. So you hit publish, and that's it, just like you normally do, except that you'll see the Simple Podcast Press player instead of the PowerPress player. So you can see it here. I put the PowerPress shortcode, but it put the Simple Podcast Press player. Okay, wow, 45 minutes into it, and we're still on section number 1. All right, so let me quickly pause, quickly check for questions. Oh, I think I missed part of Daniel's question. Daniel was asking about maybe it was Pocket Casts. I need to double check that. Was there a first part of that question, Daniel? Okay, I might have missed that. It could be this chat box not keeping up, maybe. Anyway, if you don't mind repeating that question, Daniel, when you get a second, I'll come back to it. All right, let's keep going because we're already 45 minutes into it, and I want to get to the more cool stuff. So let's quickly share my screen again, and now I want to talk about the actual settings, like the customizations you can do, and all the features, the power, like the powerful features that make the player unique and also makes the listening experience a little more unique. So let me explain that to you. So the first thing I want to talk about is the player itself. It is pretty straightforward, but I want to cover quickly what these settings do. So you have an option for a black, a white, or a custom colored player. And then within the player, you can adjust the color of the bar, the actual player itself, and the color of the progress bar. You can see that here, like when you just hit play for a second, like that progress bar there. You can customize the color of that and the color of the text as well. So, you know, you want to make it flow nicely, visually appealing on your site. So you want to customize that. So this is a setting where it tells you if you're doing the import, the first workflow, the fully automated workflow, you can have it just put the player on top, on the bottom, or nowhere by default. So it's totally up to you if you want it to appear by default on top or bottom. So that's how you set that here. Now the thing is to keep note of is you want to make sure that you set, it's not going to go back and fix it. So I mean, if you had it set to above content, and then from now on you want it to go below on the bottom of the page, and you change the setting, it won't go back and update, unfortunately. It will, I don't believe it does actually. I think you'll have to go back and it'll just treat it going forward, I believe. So it's good to set that up in the beginning and keep it consistent. And then this is the setting where it would replace your existing player with the Simple Podcast Press player. This right now works with the PowerPress. So if you have PowerPress player, it's going to swap that out if you have this option enabled. And the default audio player, like WordPress has a default built-in audio player that comes on as soon as you just put a URL in there, it'll put an audio player for you. So it would replace that as well. And we're looking at, based on customer requests, looking at adding basically this automatic replacement for other players as well. So if you have an idea, you want to see if you'd like to see an existing player updated automatically, we can see if we can work that out. There's an option to autoplay. I really discourage people from using this option. I'm not a big fan of autoplay. We put it in there, customers wanted it, but I'm not a big fan personally. As a listener, if I want to play, I'll click play. Player width. This is something that very few people use. I wouldn't use it because if you start setting the width, it doesn't become fluid or responsive anymore, depending on your theme. So we recommend just to leave it on auto so that the player will shrink. The player will look nice depending on what theme you're on, depending on what device you're on. So the player will always scale accordingly. So I would leave it as auto if you can. If for some reason you need to put it, you can set the width right here. Okay, now colors. So we have buttons and colors. So we have 4 buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to add more, but the 4 standard buttons are download, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. The download button, nothing to configure, just the color itself. So you click on the color and you select the color that you want. iTunes button, you don't need to configure it, because if you entered your iTunes URL when you started, it knows your iTunes URL. But some people like to change it and make it point to another variation of their iTunes URL. So you could overwrite that and put that right here. Stitcher, we need to know the color and where your Stitcher homepage is. And same with SoundCloud. Or you can, turn off any button that you don't want to see. Now, one note here, something we're working on fixing is we noticed that the default, when you on a fresh install, you just install the plugin, the default colors are transparent or non-existent. So make sure if you're setting up for the first time, make sure that when you do enable a button, that you actually click and select the color. It may look white or gray, but just to be safe, go ahead and click a color. We're going to fix that, but just a heads up that some people got tripped over that because they're saying the buttons weren't showing up, but they were just invisible or transparent. So anyway, that's a bug on our side. We're fixing that, but I want to bring that to your attention in case you were just getting started now with the plugin. Now the fun ones are here, the 3 custom buttons, and we're going to expand that. So like I said earlier, I think somebody asked earlier, we're going to add more buttons like iHeartRadio, Spreaker, add some nice buttons. Now, the reason why I want to add these buttons as a default is because we have icons that go beside it, and they just look nicer. The custom buttons don't have icons right now, so we're gonna make nice buttons for iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and other services as well, and save these custom buttons for unique things. Like maybe I've seen people who have an iPhone app or Android app for their podcast, so they link it up. They make a custom button to download my iPhone app. You click and you can send people anywhere you want. So they send them this is Steve Stewart. He gave me this idea. He goes, you know what? I got an iPhone app. I linked them up in my custom buttons, and he loves that feature. Leave a review. This is another good one. There is a website I put together called getpodcast.reviews. I'm going to talk about that near the end again as one of the resources. It's a free tool, free website. You put your iTunes URL, and we give you a special link that will send people who are on iOS devices right to the reviews tab directly, so that there's no clicking around. It's pretty handy. It's a pretty nice way to get a review pretty quickly. And actually, the cool thing about that is it works regardless if they're subscribed or not. Because I've noticed that if you're already subscribed and you don't get the right URL in there, it doesn't take you to. It doesn't give you an option. It's very weird. Apple's very weird that way. If you're subscribed, they don't really make it very easy for you to leave a review. So this link, it takes you to the iTunes app, and it lets you leave a review very easily, whether you're subscribed or not. So that's getpodcast.reviews. I'll talk about that. I'll mention that later on as well. So anyway, the whole point here is you can have custom buttons anywhere you want. You got a course, you got a webinar coming up, whatever you like. And these are across the board, meaning if I go ahead and update this, it's going to update them across all my episodes. So that's kind of handy. You can update it based. If you have a new webinar coming up, you can add a custom button, say sign up for my webinar, and then next week change it back to leave a review. So it changes everything across the board. We recently added a place you can customize some text. Like there's a text here. I know what Joey's thinking right now, but Joey's thinking, can I get rid of that text? There's a text that shows up. I'm surprised that it's not showing up here. That's interesting. Okay, maybe I got rid of it. Oh, sorry, I'm running a special version that I gave to Joey that gets rid of that text. So I apologize for that. This text that normally comes up above the player says listen to the episode. I turned that off because Joey requested that feature. But anyway, you can customize that text that goes there. So if we log in, I'll show you on another site here. And we're going to be adding a feature where you can shut that off completely because some people don't like it. they think it's pretty useless. Like right now, it says check out the episode. You can customize this text, or soon, very soon, you can remove this text completely. Okay. What else we got? This is just visual stuff. You can round buttons. If people like round versus square, flat versus gradient, the player itself. Right now, you see it's kind of flat color. This is all visual preference. I don't want to get into too much time. We're already 1 hour into this webinar. This setting is actually, this is a very important setting. Some themes will show the excerpt or the preview text on your home page, and that's all. That looks great and everything, but sometimes, sometimes what happens is, sometimes what happens, you'll see some funny text like subscribe on iTunes. You see some random text that looks like it's the text from the buttons. So anyway, I guess without getting too much into it, if you see any text on your homepage that says listen, subscribe on iTunes, or listen or download, then your theme is set in a way where it hides the buttons, but it doesn't hide the text part of the button. I know I'm not doing a great job. I'm not giving it justice. But if you see anything funny on your homepage, or you want to disable the player from your homepage, you can turn this on. And you can just turn on the affiliate link, which says powered by Simple Podcast Press. It's kind of inverse logic here. You check it to disable it. But if you do want to leave it on, and you can sign up to be an affiliate, you click here, you can register. It gives you an affiliate number, like 100, whatever it is. You just punch that number in here. And then if anybody clicks through that link and they're interested in buying the plugin, you get a commission per sale. Okay, so I'm going to skip this transcript section. I'm going to talk about that later. And real quick, opt-in box. So you saw the opt-in box below the player. You customize the colors here, headline, subheadline, the actual text. But I wanted to show this part here. So people ask me, what is this HTML code? Where do I get it from? So I wanted to quickly show, use MailChimp as an example, because I have a MailChimp account. It really works with everything: GetResponse, MailChimp, Infusionsoft. Any service that gives you HTML code to embed the opt-in box in, then it's compatible with it. So let me show you quickly, because I had a lot of people ask me. So this is my test site, my MailChimp site. So if I go under lists, go under whatever list, choose a list, and then you click on sign up forms, and then embedded forms, where it says it generates the HTML code. So you've got to make sure it's the HTML code, not the JavaScript code, nothing like that. You want just the HTML code. And you just scroll down, and the code is right here. You just click here, and go ahead and copy this, and go back to here, and then you paste it into this box. And that's it. So if you get stuck here and you're not sure where to get it, shoot me an email, shoot support an email. We can help you. I just showed you quickly how to do that with MailChimp, but it's a very similar process with other services as well. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't know about, or maybe not using, is this. Like, you got a couple options here. You can show name and email, and you can show email only, like your traditional opt-in box, and email and subscribe now. But also, we added this a while ago, and it's like a two-step opt-in. And now, not to be confused with like confirmation email, where someone has to confirm. The two-step opt-in is like a lead pages style opt-in, which means, well, let me show you what it means. So what it does, I'll just save here. If I refresh the page, it doesn't give you doesn't tell the person to leave their email. It kind of gives a call to action. They click a button, it pops up, and then they leave their name and email, or just email, depending on your settings, and then they opt in from here. So the two-step just means that you have to click twice. So you kind of take a small action here, micro action, and then they commit by leaving their email here. So just, again, it's a preference. not many people, I don't see it being used a lot. I'm not sure if people don't like it or don't know about it, but it might be worth experimenting with. And I think that's pretty much it. I want to move on to the more exciting things. So any questions quickly here? Any questions on? All right. All right. So I got Daniel's got to go. Thanks, Daniel. Oh, your feedback on Pocket Casts is maybe another button I can add. I got you. Michael says, great job. Thank you. I hope you guys are still engaged and in tune, and let's just keep going. There's not any more questions, so let's just keep rocking here. I lost my bearings for a second. Share screen. Okay. Now let's go back to here. So we talked about buttons. Now reviews. Now this is cool. I'm just going to go back to my dashboard. Reviews were a pain. There's a lot of services now that do it. What happens is when you log in to your dashboard, you will see your latest 5 reviews right on your main dashboard. And then these reviews are from all over the world, and they're updated every 24 hours. And to see all your reviews, you would click on see all reviews, and it takes you to a page that has all the reviews. Now, just one thing worth noting is it does update every 24 hours. So it goes through all the countries. And there's a lot of countries. And now from our testing, we've noticed that sometimes a country hiccups, or some countries hiccup, like iTunes, Apple doesn't give us the feed that we need so we can get the reviews. So the reason why I say that, I know Dave's got way more reviews than 65. And I'm noticing it's only showing US right now. Actually, it's showing US and Canada. But there are even more reviews. So the thing is, I guess my point is, don't worry if you don't see all your reviews the first time you do it. Every 24 hours, it keeps updating. So I want to bring that to people's attention, is it will update itself automatically. Now, this is all cool. You see all the reviews, 1 through 5. I know Dave doesn't have any 1-star reviews. He's got all 5-star reviews, which is cool. But this is for your eyes only. You own the website. This is in your dashboard. Now, how do you show off the reviews? So we added this feature where you can show them off, and if anywhere you want, on your sidebar, on your page, or on your post, anywhere you want. So quickly, I'll show you the sidebar. If you go under Appearance, Widgets, and depending on your theme, this might look slightly different, but for my theme, it's the primary sidebar. I'm going to just push this back here. So normally you would come in here, and if you scroll on the left-hand side, you should see something called Podcast Reviews. So just click, drag. I want to put it on top here. Now I can do a slideshow, which basically shows me one at a time, and it cycles through, or it shows me a list. And the list is in this case, I set it to 5. It'll show you my 5 latest reviews. And the nice thing is, when you get a new review, it's going to update. So your top 5 is always up to date. And the slideshow is random. So just randomly pick a review and cycle through it. So let's see what it looks like really quick. You might have noticed it earlier on here. So on the right-hand side here, you'll see the reviews. Let me just refresh the page. So you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 5 reviews are here. Now, one thing to note and not to worry about is if you do happen to have a 1, 2, or 3-star review, it's not going to show up. So we do a filter. Make sure that your 4 and 5-star reviews show up, but anything less won't show up here, but it will show up inside your dashboard. So you need to know if people are kind of criticizing your podcast, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. You need to know, but the rest of the world doesn't need to know. So you don't have to worry about showing off bad reviews, which defeats the whole point. So I'm going to show you quickly how to add reviews on a page or a post or anywhere you want. So if I just go down here and click on, see, we have a bunch of tools up here. If maybe you didn't notice, I'm going to cover some of these tools later, but where is that review star? So if you hit the star, it's gonna drop the special code on your page. And if I preview that, by default, it's gonna show you your one review, and it's gonna cycle through it. So it's gonna pick one review, and in 10 seconds, it's gonna cycle through it. And I was talking to Joey a couple days ago, and he gave me some good ideas to make that a little more configurable, right? Maybe you want it every 5 seconds. So, it's gonna be more customizable. So that's pretty cool. It's nicely organized, shows you the country, the person's name, title, and how many stars. So that's cool. You can put that on the page, and as well, you can have it on your sidebar. And there's a couple small things you can do. Again, this is a little bit of typing is involved, and it's documented in the manual. But you can do similar things. You can say, you know what, show me a list. Style, I think it's style equals list, and max equals, say, 3. I know it's a little bit of typing involved, and we're going to make that more visual so you can click a button. But right now, you can do that. So style just means list mode versus slideshow mode. And then the max just means how many entries to show. So if I hit preview, and it should change that to a list of my 3 latest reviews. So that's it for reviews. Quickly, for any questions on reviews, will there be a replay? Yes, Mark, there will be a replay. You should get an email as soon as we're done, and you should you'll know the link for the replay. I'll make sure. If it doesn't happen, I'll send out the email myself. But yep, there'll be a replay. No worries. Okay, let's keep going. This is a really cool feature, and I really want people to start using this more and more. It's called clickable timestamps. So clickable timestamps, the whole point is to keep people listening on your site longer. So a lot of people come here, they press play, and they listen, and they don't like the first 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Then they're like, okay, see you later, I'm out of here. Like, you can't listen. It's not very easy to jump around in the player. I mean, you could click around here, but you don't know what's coming up. You don't know, you don't know where the good stuff is. So a lot of people started doing is they put a time code. Say, let's say a 2-minute, 2:00, and they would say, listen to Dave talk about this. Time 5:00, listen to Dave talk about that. So it helps people, but the people still have to go here and like scrub through here and say, okay, 5 minutes, all right, then listen. So I thought, hey, why don't we automate this step? So I'm going to show you how simple that is. So I can go in here and just put 2:00 and say, listen to Dave talk, whatever. So highlight the 2:00, the clock here, insert clickable timestamp, boom. Then I can say same thing here, like 3:00. Listen to Mike talk, whatever, just highlight that, like that, and we're done. Let's go preview this page. So you'll see 2 links, and these are actually clickable links. So when someone's listening, you can click 2 minutes, and it would jump to the 2-minute mark. Click the 3 minutes, so jump to the 3-minute mark. Hey, I want to jump back. Click back. So it's really nice. It's a really nice experience for the listener, and it's also good for you, in my opinion. It's good for you because instead of losing the person completely, have them tuning out, it's actually a very good tool to tell people on the podcast, say, hey, if you visit the show notes page and you want to re-listen to parts of it, we made it super convenient for you. You can click around and jump to the right sections of the podcast without having to listen to the golden nuggets, if you know what I mean. So this is it's maybe a few months old. a lot of great feedback, but I really like to see a lot of you guys using this feature. It's so cool. It's so easy and gives your listeners a really good experience. Yeah, so that's clickable timestamps. What's next? Transcripts. Now, transcripts is something we've had for a while, but a lot of people found it limiting. So I call them clutter-free transcripts. So I say transcripts. It doesn't have to be transcripts. It can be anything you want. But it's basically, the idea is you can have some text that is not cluttering up your whole page, and it kind of collapses and hides, and people can expand it and read it only if they want to. So in the past, there's there's two ways of doing this. If you scroll down here, you'll see a box that says clutter-free transcripts. You can paste the transcript in here or type whatever you want in here. And then you would need to tell it where to put this transcript on the page. And you do that by clicking on this button here, insert transcript. And then let's say I'm just typing the rest of my So let's just see what happens here. So when I preview this, it shows you your text, it shows you the reviews, and it says read full transcript. Now this text is customizable in that settings page here, real quick before I forget. You can customize this text here. It's in the player style settings section. So right here, transcript, show notes, type whatever you want in here. Now the cool thing is it's collapsible and expandable. So you can click and hide and collapse. So if you do offer full transcriptions, word for word transcriptions, they can get pretty long. They can really make your site crowded and not visually appealing. So you can hide a lot of that. But I get this question a lot, and it's not hiding it from search engines. So from SEO perspective, you're golden. Nothing's changed. Google can see it. Search engines can see it. It's just visually hiding it from a user, from a human's perspective. So no need to worry about that. And then, so people like that, but then sometimes if you enter like formatted text, like HTML, like bold and underline, and you start formatting it, it's kind of hard to do in this box, and sometimes it doesn't work as well. So we made it even easier. So we made it such that you can add your transcript right inside here. So I'm just going to delete this. I can say this is my transcript. If I want this to be bold, I can just do it. So we'll give you an option to write your transcript as part of your post, with whatever. 1, 2, and then really simply you can go and say insert transcript like we did before. So it inserts the top part of this transcript, and then enter, and then you click on the one beside it which says insert closing shortcode. So let me just make sure that was clear. So it's basically adding, think of it as an opening transcript code and a closing code. So anything in between here will show up as a transcript, as a clutter-free collapsible transcript. So let me hit preview. And so now you see the text with the bold and bullets, and whatever you do in your regular editor will just translate nicely here. So there's kind of two reasons why we did this. One reason was it's a lot easier to do formatting, bold, underline, bullets, quotes, and everything is it's more intuitive to do it here inside the post editor instead of having to go down here and type it or paste it. But another reason is a lot of people use plugins like can't think of the name, SEO plugins that analyze the content of your post, and they tell you, if they're good for SEO or bad for SEO. And what those plugins do, they only look at the content in this section of your editor. So if you had a transcript down here, it wasn't picking it up. So people didn't like that because they were saying that the plugin was telling them that you're not SEO friendly, you don't have enough keywords. Meanwhile, the plugin didn't realize that the rest of the post is down here. So we made it super easy. We just said, you know what, it makes more sense to be in the post editor. And it's also a lot easier to do the formatting right inside here. So just to recap, you press the first one here, insert transcript, like you normally do. And then you have to kind of think of it as like you're wrapping it around your text. So you go to the bottom and you insert the closing shortcode. So anything in between the opening and the closing will become collapsible. All right. Okay, quickly hop over for questions. Andrew's asking, is it possible for the player to pop out and keep playing if you accidentally hit the back button? That is one of the buttons that we're adding. Is came requested many times actually. It's basically opening a new window. It's basically open the player in a new window. So that's something we're going to add for sure as one of the buttons as an option for somebody. We're also looking at some kind of creative ways to do it and to do it a little nicer than opening a new window. Maybe opening a pop-up. We'll see. We're trying to be creative about it. So, but at a minimum, we'll have an option say open player new window, so you can keep listening while you navigate the site. For example, you want to keep looking around. Yeah, that's a great question, Andrew. Okay. Next, URL shorteners. This should be really quick. So a lot of people may or may not be familiar with a plugin called Pretty Link. Basically, it makes a short version of your URL or the link to your post, and so that it's easier to type on Twitter. It's easier to say on an episode. You know, instead of saying Simple Podcast Press / Hanny dash blah blah blah, I can say Simple Podcast Press / episode 1 or /1, and that's like a shortcut to that episode page. So we built that feature right into the editor. So as you're creating your post, even if Simple Podcast Press makes the post for you, you'll notice down here there's something called an podcast episode URL shortener. I think I spelled shortener wrong there actually. So this number it tries to it tries to predict the episode number from the title. Now it doesn't always work. Like this is a perfect example because the title is new noteworthy plugins. 7 new plugins. It thought 7 was the episode number, so I put 7 here automatically for you. So you can, if it doesn't do a great job, if it predicts it wrong, you can simply delete it and put whatever number you want. Actually, you can even put words in there if you want. So you can say whatever you want. But typically, this is designed for numbers. So it tries to predict. If you don't get it, if it doesn't get it right, you put a number. But now, and then you hit update or publish, and you can send people to this site and /1 blog.simplepodcastpress.com/1, and it takes them to this episode page. Now this comes in really handy for the next feature. So this is great for Twitter, for example. So on Twitter it's too long to put the whole URL, and so this is shortening it is great, very convenient, but also it's good to talk about it in your episode. And while you're talking in your intro or your outro, you can say, hey, visit me at blah blah blah.com/1. Now if you don't like just 1, 2, 3, you can be a little smart about it. You can come here into the settings page, and you can say, you know what, I want to add a prefix. So if I know it's always going to be called episode 1 or EP1, or let's say episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. So you can tell Simple Podcast Press to always put episode before it. And if I go and just publish this page here real quick. So if I scroll down here now, oh, I didn't do it. I'm gonna have to reload the page. Let me just refresh the page quickly. Oh, it didn't show it for some reason. Maybe if I open a new page, but it's gonna add episode just before the one there automatically. So let me just open up another page just to make sure that's the case. Otherwise, maybe something broke along the way. Something did break. Interesting. Okay. Well, what it's supposed to show is the prefix that we entered here, which is in this case episode. So yeah, I apologize. That didn't work. I made a note of it. Maybe something happened in one of our updates. But the idea is you can have it smarter and always put a prefix before. Now, where does this come in handy? And of course, you can disable it. If you don't like the automatic shortening, and you have your own shortener, like Pretty Link, you can just click disable and it won't interfere with anything. Now, this comes in really handy in the next feature, which is the one-click tweetables. So a lot of people do podcast-based interviews or they want to make their content shareable. So they put a quote, some kind of quote. And they want to make it very easily shareable. So I'm just going to just go back to our post here. So I can take any part. I can take the sentence here, just highlight it, and then click the bird, SPP, make tweetable, and it adds the right short code. And now what this does is that if I hit preview, it kind of makes it stand out as I should have hit enter after it, but the idea here is it makes it kind of stylized. You can customize the color here in the settings, but when someone clicks this, it's going to tweet that quote, but also two things. Also, it takes the shortened URL. So if you are using that URL shortener to save some space, it's going to shorten the URL and use that in the tweet, but also you can have it tag you. So in the settings, you can put your Twitter name here and it will tag you as well. So if someone clicks on these tweetables, it's super easy to tweet something and send traffic back to this page. B, it's going to tag you so that you know that someone tweeted it. So that's another cool feature for kind of making more interactivity, kind of getting people to share your content a little more easily. And two more things real quick before I get into the Q&A session and get into more details. I know we're gone quite over time here, and I don't mind. I have no issues. I really appreciate you guys sticking around. Actually, I'll just talk about them really quick. One of them is your latest episodes. So we have a widget, sidebar widget, just like we do for reviews. We have one called the latest episode. And you just drag that. I already have one here. Same idea. You would drag it from here, the left-hand side to the right-hand side. And you can choose if you want your channel art or from your feed. You can choose which image you want and hit save. And now what this does is it's always going to show the latest episode. If I just refresh this page, it should add add the image. Yeah, so it's a great way to always have your latest episodes available. So if someone's on your site, not necessarily on your podcast episode page, they're just browsing on the contact page or whatever, they hit play, it's always going to play the latest episode. And we added a button subscribe on iTunes, but we're going to add more buttons as well, or give you the option to turn off that button. So this is kind of a bonus feature that's built into the plugin. And the last feature is what we're calling the archive page. So it's almost like a playlist, but it's not a playlist. It's designed to be more like a listing of all your episodes and an easy way to for someone to download them or consume them, listen to them or download them. So I'm just going to make a brand new page here. And all you need to do is insert an episodes table. And it just puts this code. Now I'll show you quickly. Now the idea here is that it's going to make a nice table formatted based on your theme, release date, episode, and a link to download. Now, the cool thing is it's always up to date. So you never have to touch this page again. It's always going to update to the latest every time you publish a new episode. But also, we're looking at adding, to make these links actually click through to your show notes page. So right now you can download the episode, it will download it to your computer, or you can open it in a new tab and listen to it. But we're going to expand this to make this link to your show notes page and stuff like that. So this is, again, these are like tools. Like a Simple Podcast Press is a player. There's a lot of tools built around it that may work for you, may not work for you, may be worth experimenting with. So I really encourage you guys to play around with these options and let me know. Like, I've gotten some pretty cool ideas just from listening to you guys about what you want to see, what tools you want to see. So I know I went way over, and I want to talk a little bit about tools. I have other tools that are out there, but I do want to just hop on and see if there's any more questions. Okay, there's no more questions. All right, so let me hop back here, Hangouts. Okay, so it's getting hot in here. I'm going to be talking now about external tools. So I covered Simple Podcast Press. We'll do a Q&A at the end, but there's a couple other tools out there that can come in handy when you're anything to do with podcasting. And the two things I want to bring up are this website called getpodcast.reviews. It's a tool that I created. It's getpodcast.reviews. It's free. A lot of you have been using this already. And you click Get Started. And you paste your iTunes URL here. So I'm just going to grab one from here. Grab Dave's. And then it gives you a special link that will go to open up iTunes and send you directly to the Reviews tab if you're on an iOS device. If you're on iTunes desktop, it knows that you're on desktop, and it opens up iTunes, not quite on the Reviews tab, but on the page that makes it very simple for you to leave a review. So it's a very convenient shortcut. And I recommend you grab your URL. It's free. If you wanted to email it to yourself, you could, but you don't need to. And using that tool as one of the buttons. We're thinking of adding that as a standard button, leave a review. But for now, you can add a custom button and paste the link to your review. So make it easy for someone while they're listening to leave a review. So I want to make sure you guys are aware of that. Getpodcast.reviews. The other tool, it's come in handy a few times, is you might have heard of it. It's called Cast Feed Validator. I like this tool for a couple of reasons, because it helps me visualize the podcast. Someone will tell me that something's not importing properly. If you're having issues importing, or you think that maybe episodes are not showing up on iTunes, why aren't they showing up? This is a cool way to view your feed. It's a free tool. You view your feed in a nice visual way, so you can look at it and say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I don't see that episode. That's why iTunes didn't pick it up. Or you say, oh, you know what? I see the episode. It's on my feed. How come iTunes is not picking it up? So you can kind of figure out what's going on. So if you have your podcast feed, you paste it in here. If you don't know it on top of your head, you can always come and type in a feed, and you say set this feed, and then validate. It takes a few seconds, and it gives you a nice visual representation. So this is not my application. This is a tool I found. I just wanted to share with you guys to let you know that it's out there. If you haven't heard of it, it's a great way to visually, so you can see all the episodes here. And actually, what's really cool is you can, this is your link to your MP3 file. So if you're using PowerPress, for example, or you're inserting the player manually and you don't want to log into Spreaker and get that URL, you can just come to this site here and I'll right click and say copy. Copy link. So this will be the link to my audio file for PowerPress, or for when I say URL equals my audio link. Anyway, it's a tool. I want to share it to make sure you guys are aware of it. This comes in handy when you're troubleshooting an issue. And another thing, not sure if Joey's still on the call or not, but Joey's been, and the guys at Appendipity Themes, we've been working closely together to make sure all our themes are fully their themes and our plugins are fully compatible. They look good, they look seamless, and they don't conflict with each other. Early on, we had some conflicts. We've been working together a lot, but Joey took it like one step further, and he's been working on, I'm just gonna give you a sneak peek, and working on a theme, Appendipity theme designed specifically for Simple Podcast Press, and it's called the Simple Podcast Press theme. So it's really cool. It's really awesome, and it's coming out really soon. And it's designed for our player, for the Simple Podcast Press player. On the homepage, it looks great. They added some cool stuff here on the right sidebar, so you can see your popular episodes. It actually incorporates a player into it. So it took the nice styling of Appendipity themes, and they built a theme for Simple Podcast Press. Now, the cool thing is it's going to be available for free for Simple Podcast Press customers. So if you already own Simple Podcast Press, Joey tells me it's going to be for free. So that's cool. I want to make sure you guys are aware of that. So you guys can go to Appendipity Themes, and it's not available yet, but you can just get in touch. When it comes out for free, I'll make sure to email you guys once we work out the details. But it will be free for Simple Podcast Press customers, and it will be available around Podcast Movement, which is the end of this month. So that's pretty cool. I thought that was cool. And if you're looking for other themes as well, we do have a discount code that will give you 25% off. So if you're not interested in this theme, but you want to check out other themes by Appendipity, if you just use Simple25, you get 25% off any of their themes. So Joey was cool enough to hook that up as well. And if you are going to Podcast Movement, I'll be there. I'll be doing some live demos there as well. But more importantly, I'd love to meet you guys in person. And Joey will be there as well. He's got a workshop on Friday. And actually, one of the sections is automation. It's going to talk about how to automate Appendipity and Simple Podcast Press. So if you happen to be there at Podcast Movement, it's in Fort Worth, Texas, July 31st to August 2nd. And just make sure you check out Joey's and Appendipity Themes. They have a live session on Friday. And if you can't make it on Friday during the day, then definitely let's meet up. I'll be there Friday night and Saturday and Sunday. So I'd love to meet with you guys. Okay. Wow. I talked a lot. I didn't realize how much I talk. Okay. Let me stop sharing my screen and kind of hop on. Let me stop sharing for a second. Oh, I wasn't sharing. That's interesting. That's my bad. I thought I was sharing this whole time. Let me do that. I apologize, guys. I just realized I wasn't sharing my screen. So let me show you quickly. Wow, that's embarrassing. Let me show you quickly that Simple Podcast Press theme. It's really slick. So it's basically a theme with the full intention of full design around our Simple Podcast Press player. That they have it incorporated nicely on the home page. It's of course fully customizable. They have popular episodes, but not only links to the post, you also have the embedded player as well. But one cool thing is Appendipity Themes have a cool feature where they put the player on top. So they have a feature where you can put the player here and show the blog post here. So they integrated the Simple Podcast Press player nicely in the Appendipity style. So I really appreciate that from Joey and his team. They did a great job. And we've been working close, like I mentioned earlier, to make sure our plugin, all their themes are compatible with our plugins. All right, so let me just stop sharing for real now. And go back to the questions. Yeah, I know, Joe. I really apologize. He's saying that I wasn't sharing my screen. So I hope you guys saw that. I'm going to let me just make sure I'm on the right screen here. Am I? Okay. So just to confirm, did you guys see the second time around? Did you guys see the sneak preview of the theme? Yeah, this 30-second delay is it's pretty hard. I'm still trying to get used to it when I'm presenting, so I apologize for that. I hope you guys saw the theme the second time around. So I'm going to open up for Q&A. I'm going to scroll up quickly and catch up on a few questions. Andrew, thank you, my man. Thank you. I just got a tweet from Andrew saying I'm doing a good job. All right, so good. So you guys saw it the second time around. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so Andrew Alliance is asking me if that get podcast reviews. Yep, that's the right one. That should work. If it doesn't work, let me know. Let me know, Andrew, and I'll look into it. But that looks like it's the right formatted version, the right URL you should be using. Andrew, yes, your player changed my life. I love this kind of stories. Yeah, we talked yesterday. Andrew just installed the plugin, let's say 2 days ago, and he noticed a big spike in traffic. I'm not gonna take all that credit. I know Andrew has a lot of traffic, but I don't know. I'm very interested to dig into it further to learn more. Because that's awesome. That's really awesome. So I talked to Andrew on it. He interviewed me on his podcast yesterday, and then I don't know. It's very interesting how. I mean, Andrew's, you got a big podcast too. You got a lot of episodes out there, so I'm glad it's working out for you. And I don't know if I have. Oh, sorry. One more thing to mention. Well, I do have a Facebook group for customers. So if you're a customer and you have the Facebook group, and if you're not on the Facebook group, if you go to simplepodcastpress.com /FB group. I think it is. You can request to join the group, or just look up Simple Podcast Press in Facebook. Yeah, so the group is there for customers. Talk about, what's going on, big wins. I share some tips in there. It's just a community talk, and just to get to know each other and share our experiences. And if you get stuck on something, I'm there to help, and also other people are there to help as well. All right. Okay, I don't see any questions. Come on, guys, hit me up here. Give me a couple questions or a couple thoughts. Or I know Charles is saying, great overview. See you at PM 2015. Yes, podcast movement. I am excited. It's 10 days away. It's gonna be awesome. I'm excited to meet people. That's gonna be the best part. Is just getting to see you guys, meet you guys, chatting, having some beers, some dinner, some breakfast. Just hanging out. I mean, the sessions are going to be awesome too, but the social aspect, getting to know you guys is going to be the highlight for me. All right. You're welcome, Andrew. You're welcome. Any other questions? I know we went way over. Well, we went 40 minutes over, but I'm okay sticking around for another 20 minutes, half an hour, an hour, whatever you guys need. So feel free to drop me a question. If you no questions, I can probably wrap it up. We can probably wrap it up today. All right. Yeah, Andrew, just saw your request. I'll look at it as soon as we're done here. Awesome. Welcome. Welcome. Yeah, and I'll check out your link. No worries, Andrew. I'll check it out and make sure that it's all good. It looks good, but if there's an issue, I'll definitely look into it for you. I'll wait another minute, and then we will call it a day. And I'm planning on doing these more often. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll check that out, Andrew. We can talk. You and I will talk. Okay, so just a recap here. If you are a podcast movement, make sure you look for me. And we're actually doing a live demo. The email that went out last week, I'll send a reminder email as well. There'll be a live demo at the Podfly Productions booth. forget the exact time. They're around lunchtime and around the end of the day on Saturday. So drop by, say hi. Just love to see you and meet you. And that's it. That's it for me. I've talked a lot. I'm here for you guys. Facebook group, email. Our support team is here as well. So I hope you guys found this useful, and I'm planning on doing more of these. Probably do another one towards the end of August, maybe after podcast movement. We'll do a more focused one. Maybe pick a topic and focus more on it, because I think I tried to cover too much in a small window of time. So yeah, that's it. I'll just give it another 30 seconds. Make sure that no more questions come in, and we'll call it. We'll call it a webinar. All right, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time and spending with me on Tuesday. And I will hopefully see some of you at Podcast Movement. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next event as soon as we can. Have a great one. Take care.